Hey, thanks. First thing first, I just want to thank everybody for just showing up, listening to some benefits that we all, deserve and things that we need to know about our benefits and what we while we were serving that we weren't really paying attention to. But now we have the opportunity to kind of gain knowledge, not just for ourselves, but for the ones that we, grew up to be around and grew up to love. So give me a moment. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Travis Carpenter. Travis is a veteran benefits case manager who's been serving the veteran families for over 6 years, comes from a proud veteran family, and he's dedicated his career to helping veterans understand and access the benefits they've earned. Travis, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking to us and giving us a better education on what we need to know about, veteran benefits.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate all you guys as well. Thanks for being here. First off, I always like starting off with really just saying thank you guys for your service. I don't think you guys hear that nearly enough. So definitely thank you guys all again. I do see a few familiar faces on here. Famous, Susan, Ty, obviously. So couple things I wanted to kind of cover with you guys. And I always like to kind of start off with myself as well. So like Ty mentioned, I am one of the veteran benefit case managers for AO Globe Life. We are the private benefit company that was chosen by the VFW, AMVETS, and American Legions to handle these benefits for veterans. Now, I do always like to mention we are not here to duplicate any coverages that you guys have through the VA. We are simply here to cover the services that the VA does not handle. All right. Now, the VSOs, they obviously do not know your guys' individual personal situations. What they have found for a lot of veterans is all veterans have a very serious gap in their personal burial benefits and estate planning that the VA just doesn't really take care of. The VA does a really good job of serving veterans while you guys are alive, right? We all know our medical, disability, home loan, GI Bill, BR&E, list goes on, right? The VSOs, they're really more so concerned about taking care of you and your family thereafter. So your burial benefits, your estate planning, your life insurance, kind of everything that was listed on the call for you guys, right? Now, they did also realize that there's a lot of misconceptions between what veterans think they have versus what they actually have, especially when we're 100% or retired military. The big thing I always like to mention is being 100% retiring military does not affect your burial, doesn't affect your estate planning, and it doesn't affect your life insurance, right? So that's exactly why we kind of cover these services. So I'm going to cover four main things for you guys here today. First, veterans will. I know we had a few questions about a trust, living will, so on and so forth. I'm going to cover kind of all of it. We do handle wills for veterans. I'm going to kind of cover Champ VA during that time as well. Second, the veterans burial benefits, not just what is covered. A lot of us obviously went through TAPS. We know what is covered. We like to cover pre-needs, what's not covered, and cremation, so on and so forth. Third, veterans life insurance. We're going to go over VGLI, VA life, and then your veterans permanent life insurance. And then fourth, no veteran left behind program. I'm going to open up for questions kind of towards the end for anybody that does have questions. First, I like to kind of just explain why they set this up a little bit as well. So if everybody kind of thinks back to active duty pretty much had everything taken care of, right? Life insurance, a will, attorneys on staff, your burial is fully paid for, health insurance, disability, kind of all the above. When we leave the service, we do lose a lot of those services. Number one thing we keep is our health insurance. We got to go fight for our disability. We got to go transfer our life insurance, go get a new will, so on and so forth. And so that's a big reason why they set these services up for you guys to get taken care of, right? Now, first thing I wanted to cover was the will. Now, I know we had a few questions, trusts, living will. I really like to kind of start off by saying there is a big difference between wills and trusts. When we're all active duty, we all have a will, especially if we're getting deployed, right? Now, when we leave the service, a lot of us just don't either take our will with us or kind of lose the attorneys on staffing where we're no longer able to update, right? And so instead of going to an attorney paying for a will, they put one together for all veterans. It's a statewide legalized will and it's at no cost to you as a veteran. So our job is typically go over how to fill it out and then get the preparation of it taken care of, send it out to you guys, you're good to go, right? First, I did want to kind of explain difference between a will and a trust. Biggest difference, a will does go through probate, a trust does not go through probate. Now, there is a very big price difference with it as well. You guys are receiving a will at no cost. A trust, there's two main key points to it. Can be anywhere from 1,500 up to 5,000, depending on complexity. Number two, the preparation of it is very, very complex. I meet with a lot of people. Sometimes my meetings run a little long. They're like, why the heck are the meetings running so long? If you go meet with an attorney to set up a trust, that is a 2 hour, 3 hour meeting about once every 2 weeks, once a month, just really preparing everything. So there is a lot that goes into it. Now, your will can get put into your trust. Now, having nothing in place, that's obviously worst case scenario. So start with your will, and then if you want to go and get a trust in place, that would be either civilian or veteran attorney, which we do have a bunch of resources for that. But you can take the will and you can have it put into the trust for you, right? Now I'm going to show you guys kind of what our will looks like. There's a few kind of key points I like to point out personally. So I'm going to actually share a screen for everybody. I know some people are on the phones, so might be a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to zoom in for you guys best I can. So first page I like pointing out on the will is a resource page. They put this together for all veterans to have every phone number and website you guys may ever need access to for any of your veteran benefits, whether it's healthcare, home loans, pension management, life insurance, basically every resource you may ever need. Now, a big reason I always like to point it out is a lot of us may be retirees, maybe not. As a retired veteran, one big perk you guys will receive as far as like burial benefits, which we'll touch on here in a minute, is you get an automatic military send-off. Now, it's not fully automatic. We do have to request the service. Same thing with our memorial certificate flag. So just kind of having every phone number on here. So not only you, but family knows who to call when something happens as well, right? Now, as far as some of the main sections with the will, you always want to start with all your basic info. Vital and statistics is what we call it. It's your name, date of birth, phone number, everything a family needs to fill out like a death certificate, any type of claims, so on and so forth. You also have a dedicated veteran section as well. So I'll always recommend just copy and paste DD 214 form. You'll have service number, branch, enlistment dates, kind of all the above. Now that allows you to have both veterans info, civilians info, kind of all in one place for you guys. I'm going to skip through a few sections on here. A big section I like to point out is financial institutions info. That's for checking or savings. Now, the reason I like pointing this out is you want to list it on your will. Now, if anybody has not already set up beneficiaries on all of their accounts, USA, Navy Fed, Wells Fargo, it doesn't matter who you have, go and set up beneficiaries for all your financial accounts. It's a pain in the butt getting access to financials when somebody passes. So having a beneficiary is going to make their lives a lot easier, especially with probate. All right. Now you also want to make sure all your insurances are listed out properly as well. A big common thing we run into is work insurance, term insurance, stuff that's eventually going to go away. So we always want to kind of differentiate the two. A lot of us on here are retired veterans. So we got TRICARE. We also got the VA healthcare, right? Might be eligible for CHANT VA on top of that. So any healthcare that you have as a retired veteran, or if it's the VA healthcare, that stays with you for life. TRICARE is a good example. VA healthcare is a good example. So you always want to put those down first on your will, put them in pen, you're good. Now, I'm not touching too much on surviving spousal benefits here today, but I will mention it pretty briefly. DIC is what they call it for short, or surviving spousal benefits. It has to pertain to your VA compensation. If you are married during your time in the service, when you get out of the service, you hit 100%, you're 10 years consecutive of being 100%, and you pass away from a service-connected disability, that's when you have surviving spousal benefits. So that's a big one I always say look into. It is on the va.gov website. It's under your disability benefits. It's, I think, the third one that pops up on there for you guys. So definitely recommend going in and looking at the requirements on there as well, right? Now the reason I bring it up is you want to put it on your will, right? If it doesn't pertain to you, you can leave it off. But if it does pertain to you, put it on your will because it's a very big benefit down the road. And then third one, which we're going to get into life insurance here in a minute. Always want to list your life insurance down, policy number, coverage amount, expiration date, so family knows who to call. All right. Now the rest of the will, pretty straightforward. You'll have funeral instructions, so what you want when you pass away. You'll be able to have guardianship. I'm gonna let it load up real quick. So you'll be able to do guardianship, who you want taking care of the kids, God forbid something happens, executorship, who you want taking care of the entire estate if something happens, and then your bequests. So bequests, that's the act of giving, not the act of receiving property by will. So anything you guys own, you list it all out, who you want it to go to, you're good to go. So that's kind of the basis of our will right there. There is a few additional sections on there. Those are the main ones I wanted to point out in terms of priority of filling out, right? Now, a big question I get a lot of the time is pertaining to probate. So probate doesn't really matter where you're at. State of, we'll take Virginia or South Carolina, a few people are in. They'll come in, take ownership of the assets. Now, probate court can take anywhere from 6 weeks all the way up to 2 years to be finalized, depending on how well you set up beneficiaries, so on and so forth. Now, yes, a trust does not avoid probate. A very big misconception I think I run into a lot is that having a trust is immediate. Now, when it comes to what we take care of, a trust does not go through probate, but there is still processing times with a trust. So we always want to kind of keep that in mind when it comes to payouts, right? We got to meet with the attorney first, get access to the accounts, get access to the house. Then we got to sell the house, so on and so forth. So there is still always processing times. That's why it's really important with like your burial, your life insurance, just having everything else taken care of. So you don't really have to worry about that either way, right? So that's number one service that we do provide. The wills, they're at no cost to all of our veterans. So definitely a huge benefit to take advantage of. We help with the preparation of it and getting everything filled out for you guys. So that I'll touch on here a little bit more towards the end of the meeting. I'll open up for questions. Well, I'll say we got a little bit smaller of a group. I'll say any questions on the will. No? All right, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go over burial benefits here next for you guys. So, the burial benefits, I would say, is our number one miscommunicated service. Famous, he can kind of attest to it. When I was going over it with him, he not that he was upset, but it was a big benefit that was misrepresented in his mind as well, right? And it's pretty common across the board, whether it's hey, we think everything's paid for, hey, we don't think anything's paid for, or one service is paid for, one service isn't paid for. It's all over the place, right? And so we really want to kind of break down exactly what is covered versus what is not covered. So I always like starting off with a VA National Cemetery, how a VA National Cemetery works. So you guys may or may not know a VA National Cemetery is going to be first come, first serve. We are having a little bit over 1,700 veterans that pass away daily. And so with that, a VA National Cemetery, I'll use like Arlington as an example. It's going to be first come, first serve. We have to wait until the time of passing in order to reserve a space. Now you do have to do your pre-needs. Now it's labeled a few different things, pre-register, pre-needs, doesn't really matter. It's all the same thing. If you want to go to a VA National Cemetery, you have to pre-register with that facility. If you don't pre-register, you do not get it. Now, pre-registering does not guarantee a space until we pass away. That's kind of the big thing to keep in mind. Now, currently there's 155 national cemeteries. 87 are open for new casket, cremated remains. 22 are cremated remains only. Now, I do like to point out there is a very big difference between states and national as well. I'll kind of get to that here in a minute. As far as what's taken care of at a national cemetery, the VA is going to pay for the assigned grave site, opening and closing of the grave, grave liner for casket remains, your choice of a headstone or marker. Now, the care at no cost to the family differs per veteran. If you're retired military, you have a military send-off. If you do not retire military, you do not have a military send-off, you would have to go through like your local VSO. Famous, I'm going to use as an example, American Legions there in Virginia helps out with military send-offs for non-retired veterans. So that's kind of the difference to know when it's versus retired veteran, non-retired veteran. Now, every veteran receives a memorial certificate and a flag. So that's what the care at no cost to the family is. Now, the way I say to look at it at the VA National Cemetery is anything before the cemetery gates. So anything at the funeral home. That's typically what the family has to pay for. So casket, viewing, celebration of life, taxes, or cremation, that's what the family is responsible for. Anything at the cemetery, that's what the VA will pay for you guys. Now, there is spousal benefits that does apply to this. Now, it's a little bit tricky, the requirements on it. The veteran has to pass away first. If you have a spouse that is not a veteran and they pass away before you, there is no national cemetery where they're going to help out with these services. Now, if the veteran passes away first and the spouse wants to take them to a VA national cemetery, they can do that. They'll do the burial. They'll ask the spouse, hey, do you want to be buried here with your partner? They say yes. They'll basically put the veteran lower down in the ground and a reserved space on top for the spouse. And then they would take care of the identical services, gravesite, opening and closing, grave liner for casket remains, headstone marker. Anything beforehand, still taken care of by the family. So main thing for the spouses is veteran has to pass away first, and then the spousal benefits apply. Now, for a private facility, private setup a little bit different. So the VA, they're not a full on like insurance company. So what they did is they did an allowance structure for you guys. So it's $231 towards your headstone or marker, $978 towards your plot or burial allowance. And then for those that are 100%, you also have an additional 2,000 if the cause of death is service connected. So towards a private burial, it's either 1,200 or 3,200 if it's service connected and we're 100%. So private burial, I just like to mention private burial, if anybody knows, 10 to 20,000 on average. So that's why I always like to mention it's not going to fully pay for it, but definitely will help out. Now, the three services that the VA does not cover is going to be cremation, caskets, and urns. Those are the three services that the VA does not pay for. Now, I do like to mention there is a very small category where they will help out with cremation, and that is if you are hospitalized at a VA or at a VA facility. So I'll take hospice as an example, right? If you're hospitalized at a VA facility and you pass away at a VA facility, then they will help out with the cost of the cremation. They won't help out with any additional services, but they'll help out with the cost of the cremation. That's if you pass away at a VA medical facility, right? Aside from that, that's kind of the breakdown there. So I'll kind of open up real quick for questions.
You have to register in advance to so the veteran has to
For the
yeah.
allowances, no. For a national cemetery, yes. Yeah, so for national cemetery, it's very broad. There's 155 total national cemeteries. So really the biggest input I like to give is if you want to go to a VA national cemetery, pick where you want to go first, and then you can go either online to their website or call, or if you guys remember back to the will that we were going over earlier, there's a National Cemetery Scheduling Office phone number. It's highlighted in red. You guys can call them and you guys can actually get the pre-needs paperwork from them as well. So there's a few different routes for it, but yeah, definitely if you want to go VA National Cemetery, pre-register all the way, right? Now, a big service that we do take care of to kind of compensate for this, obviously, as you guys can tell, the VA's burial allowance, not really fully enough to pay for all of your funeral and final expenses, especially when we take into account taxes, attorney fees, medical, housing, kind of all the above, right? So what they set up, it's a burial insurance program for you guys. It's called the Freedom of Choice. I'll stop share screen and just show you guys kind of what it looks like. So they set it up for all veterans. So those that qualify, you guys can have what we call the freedom of choice. It's valid at all funeral homes in the US, Canada, Mexico, New Zealand. And it's made to cover the entire cost or remaining cost of your cremation or your burial. So it's a big benefit that they set up to kind of help cover the additional costs that might be left over for the family, right? So that's kind of everything when it comes to the burial. They really set the freedom of choice up as well, because really when it comes to burial, we have the burial allowance, national cemetery, and we run into a lot of people that will go pre-register or prepay is what a lot of people call it for their burial cremation services. And a big thing we run into, especially with like BFW members, is the cost of inflation. So like the casket, for example, caskets 20, 30 years ago, probably 500 bucks. Right now they're like 3 or 4 grand, right? The cost of inflation is a really big one. The freedom of choice covers that, where a prepayment plan doesn't, right? So they set that up versus doing a prepayment plan for you guys. That's another service, which if you guys want to have it taken care of, you guys can reach out directly. But that's what's covered at a VA National Cemetery, private facility for you guys, right? Any questions? I'm going to move on to guys' life insurance there next. Cool, cool. All right. So with your guys' life insurance, we have a few options. First one, which most of us probably know about, are SGLI, transfer over to VGLI, right? That is the first option, which especially for active duty veterans, most active duty veterans are going to have SGLI, right? Now, what I like to explain is kind of what you go over during TAPS, which is how to take it over, how long you have to take it over, and what type of policy it is, right? So this is like first option for you guys. Active duty veterans right now, SGLI is $500,000 in coverage. When you leave the service, you have 120 days to transfer SGLI to VGLI. If you do not transfer within 120 days, you lose the benefit. You cannot go back to it. So that's a really big one that I run into a lot. A lot of people just did not get a chance to transfer it, right? Now, second is what type of policy is the VGLI, right? So it's a 5-year term life policy, which means right now active duty veterans, like I was saying, have 500,000 in coverage. They typically pay about 30 bucks a month out of their check. When we take it over, now it starts based off of your current age. So let's say, for example, we retired at 45 years old and we wanted to take it over. So that current rate for you would be 95 bucks a month for the 500,000. Now, what we like to show is just making sure we're all aware what it's going to do for the rest of your life, right? So I'm just going to skip through these for you guys real quickly. So 50 years old, we got the 500,000, 145. 55, 500, 250. 60, 500, 425, 65, 500, 690, 70, 500, 1075, 75, 1900, 80, 22, right? Now, you guys do have two options when it comes to the VGLI. So anybody that currently has VGLI, you probably receive the email or letter that states two options you have: increase in premium, decrease in coverage. So the decrease in coverage would be, for example, let's drop it down to 250,000, right? 250,000, it's going to decrease your rate, decrease coverage. Or you can keep the same coverage with an increased rate. So that's kind of the basis on the VGLI. That's kind of like first option. Second option is the VA life. The VA life is very simple to explain and kind of understand. It's not it is a life insurance. Now, it's a very different, I would say, type of life insurance. It's nor whole life nor term life. It is a permanent life insurance for you guys. It's only for veterans that are 100% PNT. That's the number one thing I like to mention. It's only for veterans that are 100% PNT. Second is it has a 2-year wait period on it. So from the day that you apply, there's a 2-year waiting period on it for coverage to be in effect. Number three is it goes in increments of 10,000. So you have four options. You can do 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or 40,000. It's a max of 40,000 in coverage. Now, it does have a fairly high premium for it because the VA, not a full-on insurance company. So to kind of help compensate for that, they do the 2-year wait period and a little bit of a higher premium. So me personally, I like to say if you're not able to qualify for private life insurance, the VA life or the SGLI, VGLI, that would be your number one route to go. If you're not able to qualify for anything else, those are your number one two options because you do not have to qualify for it based off age. It's just based off your, or I got the backwards, not based off your health, just based off of your age, right? So that's the big pro I like to say with the VGLI is yeah, you don't have to qualify for it based off health. It's just based off of your age, right? Now, there is a third option that the VSO set up, which covered it with quite a few people on here already. It's the Veterans Permanent Life Insurance. So, before I get into that, I like to explain civilian insurance and work insurance as well, because obviously a lot of us are still working. So, I understand that. So, we went over the VGLI, went over the VA life, and then we also have our civilian life insurance and our work insurance. I'm going to start with work insurance. It's a big miscommunicated benefit as well. 31 days after we leave jobs, change careers, or retire, we will lose our life insurance through work. Now, I do meet with a lot of federal state employees. So I do understand that there is FGLI or some state employee programs out there that allow you to keep your life insurance after retirement. Now, I always refer back to the VGLI. It's a very good example of, hey, if you want to keep your life insurance when you retire, a great example of that would be come to the VGLI website, click on 65. Most FGLI or federal state employee life insurance programs are right around 250,000 in coverage. This is a great example of what price you'll be paying if you wait until retirement to take it over, right? Number one common thing that happens though is we just lose it, right? We're like, hey, you know what? No, we're done. We drop it off. That's that, right? Second option is we got civilian insurance, right? Civilian insurance, very similar to what I was mentioning with probate. It's called contestability. There is very long wait times, I guess I would say, right? In claims paying ability. So civilian insurance typically takes anywhere from 6 weeks. It could be up to a few months, even a year to pay out a policy, especially if you have a high coverage policy. Typically a high coverage policy is 250,000 and up is what they consider high coverage, right? Now, what I mean by that is when we pass away, or I'll start with even at the beginning, when you apply for the policy, you apply for the policy, they approve you. You pay for it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. When you pass away, your family will submit a claim. The company is going to go back to the original application and they're going to look at your medical records, make sure everything you put on the application is true and correct. Now, if anything doesn't match up, they either don't pay out the policy. That is very rare. I always like to point that out. Now, if everything does match up, they pay out the policy. Now, that process is what takes a really long time. You guys have all dealt with the VA, medical records, can take a long time, right? And so that's a big thing I always like to point out. A lot of the time, too, civilian insurance is always term life. And a big thing I run into is a lot of people not knowing what they have, right? A lot of people I meet with, hey, what's your life insurance? How much do you have? Who's it through? Really making sure we know all of those, especially for the family, whether it's a 5-year term life, a 20-year term life, knowing what the expiration date is, right? So that's a big thing we like to cover is just really making sure we know exactly what we have, putting it all in one place. That's kind of me going back to the will for you guys. But a big thing we handle, so kind of third option, which the VSO set up for you guys, is the Veterans Permanent Life Insurance. Now, the biggest thing I'll point out with that is it does not ever expire for you guys. It does not ever go up in price, and it pays out for any cause of death. Now, the difference, I would say, is it's now based off qualifications because it's set up privately for you guys where you get to keep it. It's not under control by your work, by the state, or by the VA. It's under your control. So it is based off qualifications, age, health, and habits. That's a problem we run into in terms of people qualifying for it, right? Now, if you are able to qualify for it, though, like I said, the VSOs, they already kind of did all the research for veterans. The three kind of big things that they looked for, claims paying ability. Did the company actually pay out when they say they will? For any cause of death, are there any hidden exclusions or loopholes? And then immediate payout. Does the money go to your family right away? What they found with AO is claims pay out 99.9% of the time. There's no hidden rules or fine print. So kind of like back to what I said, right? Permanent, doesn't ever expire, pays out immediately for any cause of death, and the price never goes up. So that's a big one that we take care of. Obviously, like I said earlier, if you guys are wanting to get that taken care of, we can talk about that later. Any questions though on the life insurance section? That's kind of the main services right there. Cool, cool.
Yeah, I got a question. Hey, Travis.
Go ahead, James.
What about universal life? How does that? What is?
We went over this during our meeting too. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
universal life is a good question. Universal life is what Famous has, if anybody's curious. And so, um, universal life is a third type of civilian insurance. So most common terms you'll hear, term life, whole life, universal life. Universal life is more, it's labeled a life insurance. It is definitely more of a financial planning tool. A lot of people utilize it as more of a retirement account. So if you ever meet anybody that has a universal life, they're typically putting in anywhere from 500 to like 1,000 a month because high it's a highly invested account. So it is a life insurance. So let's say you have a $250,000 policy. It's a life insurance, but you pay in addition to the life insurance to invest the money. So the financial advisor, whoever's handling it, invests the money for you into S&P, NAS, whatever, mutual funds, so on and so forth, gets you a high rate of return. Now, the complexity with it is where we run into it is you need a advisor to help handle it for you guys. And there's a lot of pros and cons. The pro of it would be if you fund it properly, you have it for a really long time, 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to have a good retirement when you're 60, 65, 70. It's not utilized as much of a life insurance because you're going to start getting your dividends from it when you turn 60, 65, so on and so forth. So that's a big pro of it. The con, I would say, is the legalities of it. If you overfund or underfund the policy, there can be lapses in coverage if you don't have somebody handling it properly for you. And if it lapses, there's actually tax implications with it, where you have to back pay the taxes because of it lapsing. If you overdrew it, there's just a lot to it, right? So yeah, famous. That's a really good question. I would just refer to that more of a financial planning slash retirement tool rather than like an immediate, hey, this is set up for my burial, or hey, this is set up to cover the house, or this is set up to cover loss of income, so on and so forth, right? But yeah, famous, we covered yours, so you're good. All right. Any other questions before I move on to the next section? All right, cool. So next thing I wanted to touch on is actually a big service that it's kind of our biggest mission or goal. It's called the No Veteran Left Behind program. So a lot of us, obviously, have been in the service for a really long time, and some of these services may apply to you, it may not. But our biggest mission or goal is protect and serve 100% of our veterans. We're having about 200,000 veterans that leave the service every single year. And a lot of veterans are not VSO members or attending other VSO meetings. And so we run into a lot of veterans that are not getting access to all their benefits or updates. And so this is something I touch on with every veteran I meet with is sponsoring in other fellow veterans that may need help getting access to their benefits. So a big reason I wanted to cover this with you guys is even if some of the services we covered here today does not apply to you, just like Ty says, Famous says, is share the information because we don't want to leave any fellow veterans behind. These are benefits that you guys are entitled to and earned, right? So that's a big reason we cover it. And like I said, not, a lot of people are not VSO members or attending their VSO meetings. So when it comes to hearing about the benefits, luckily a lot of you guys got Ty, which he puts out a lot of good information, so huge help there. But it's really just kind of paying it forward, right? Making sure that we're taking care of all of our fellow veterans, right? Aside from that, I mean, that's pretty much everything I was going to cover here today for you guys. I can kind of open up for questions and then kind of wrap up from there for you guys.
Were you planning to cover trusts at all?
So with the trust, so a trust has to be done through an attorney. We handle wills, right? And so that's why I was pointing out at the beginning the difference between a will and a trust. Our services are at no cost to you as a veteran. The will is at no cost to you as a veteran, right? If we're wanting to get a trust taken care of, where you would want to start is getting your will, right? And then they'll take your will and they'll put it into the trust for you. And you can kind of prepare a little bit better from there. If you just kind of go straight to an attorney, it's going to be high cost and there's going to be a lot of back and forth. Hey, go do this first, go do this, go do this. So you want to always start with a will first because then a lot of stuff's already prepared ahead of time. And then you can go set up your trust.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Did you touch the Champ VAs?
That was actually what I was just looking at on here. So
I know.
I'm glad you brought that up. So Champ VA is a very big benefit that is, I feel like, overlooked as well. It's only for 100% PNT veterans. Now, it's also not here to duplicate your TRICARE or VA healthcare as well. So I always like to keep that in mind. Now, first eligibility requirement for Champ VA is, like I said, you got to be 100% PNT veteran. Now, if you are 100%, the benefit is for spouses and any of your children. So it's automatic for children under the age of 18 or over 18 up to 26, as long as they're enrolled in some form of school. So that's kind of the eligibility requirements for Champ VA. Now, what Champ VA is, it's a 75-25 medical plan for veterans. Now, like I said, it is not going to replace your TRICARE. TRICARE is usually, especially if you're retired, TRICARE is your primary for you, for your spouse, for your kids. And then you obviously, as a veteran, you have your VA healthcare on top of that. Now, if anybody does not qualify for TRICARE, then that's when you go look at Champ VA. Or if we did not retire military, then obviously the spouse and the kids, they don't have TRICARE. So that's when you want to go to Champ VA. Champ VA is a very identical plan to TRICARE. It's a 75-25. VA pays for 75, family pays for 25, right? Now, in layman terms, it's a cost sharing plan. So very similar to the TRICARE, you can use it as a primary. You can also use it as a secondary. A lot of us probably have TRICARE and then VA healthcare, right? You can do Champ VA and then the VA healthcare. You can do TRICARE, Champ VA. There's a bunch of different ways you can go about it, right? But that's kind of who it's for. It is actually very easy to access. It's on the va.gov website for you guys. You go to family and caregiver benefits, and then it's the second one that pops up on there for you guys. So Champ VA, it'll tell you how to apply. It'll go over who it's for, so eligibility for specific groups, benefits you can get through. And then if you scroll down far enough, you'll see a little green button, it says apply. And typically it's just the veteran's information first, spouse or kids information second, hit upload, you're good to go. It's a pretty easy form to fill out as well. And that's Champ VA. So any questions on that one?
No, that's good information. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just noticed that it said if you don't qualify for TRICARE, you can apply for a Champ VA. I never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, the Champ VA is a tricky one. They do update quite a bit. So actually, famous last time you and I spoke, I know we were talking about getting the Champ VA taken care of. But yeah, a big thing they recently kind of changed is making sure it's not duplicating current TRICARE coverages. And so that's a big one they just added on. I believe it was right here. Yeah, right here. So they just added that on there, making sure it's not duplicating any of your TRICARE coverages. But yeah, if any of the kids are a great example. I've ran into a lot of families where the kids get kicked off a little early, 20, 21, 22. Then just go switch over to Tri or Champion. And then they have it for till they're 26, and then they're good to go. Right. So yeah, Champion is a big one. There's a lot more to it. We do obviously work in cooperation with the veteran service organizations. So there's a bunch of programs out there, VRE benefits, caregiver support, Champion, post 9/11 GI Bill, the 12-month extension. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that really just making sure you guys are staying on top of, getting access to, kind of all the above. So obviously, any additional questions, Famous and I, we had little 2 hour Zoom meeting as well, going over as many benefits as possible. So yeah, I mean, definitely any additional questions you guys have, we can totally help answer that as well. I always like to say everything's done on an individual basis. I've already met with a few people that are on here. Famous is a good example. We do typically do everything on an individual basis because everybody kind of has a different need and a different want, right? Some people may just need the will, some people may just need the burial, so on and so forth. So we do everything on an individual basis. We kind of have to as well because of HIPAA laws and regulations. So definitely want to stay up to date on all that. So yeah, biggest thing I would say, and I can drop it in the chat for everybody. If you're needing to either prepare your will, secure your burial, cremation services, or just even have them get that peace of mind protection for the family, that's everything that we handle. So, like I said, I do see a few people I helped out here on this call. We can definitely help out with any additional questions. I'm gonna actually drop a link in the Zoom chat so everybody has it. The hardest part I would say about everything that we take care of is unfortunately a lot of veterans do get left behind and just kind of push this off, right? Especially I'll go back to Ty we were just talking about at the beginning of the call is active duty. The younger you are, the better in terms of planning and preparation. So as much as I would love to meet with active duty veterans, a lot of who we meet with is of veteran status. And maybe now it's a little harder to qualify due to health or age or whatever it may be. So active duty veterans. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we just don't want you guys to get left behind or push it off. And so, as you guys all know, it can be a very like hurry up and wait, right? So to make sure that that doesn't happen, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. It's a jot form link, so you guys can request services. It's pretty simple to utilize. Just name, phone number, best time to call, and then branch of service for you guys. So if you guys want to fill that out, it'll come over on my end for you guys. And then in my free time, I'll go ahead and create a file for you guys. And then I can reach out directly from there and kind of help get this all taken care of for you guys. All right. But aside from that, I mean, that's kind of all of the main things I was going to cover for you guys. I'm going to drop that in the chat for you guys and then stop share screen real quick. There we go. Oh, look at that. We had a few more people join while sharing screen. Any additional questions, I guess? All right. I like asking if there's questions a lot, so
No, that's fine, man. You got a shy crowd. They only shy on camera. Let me understand. Let me say that. Um, no, hey man, Travis, I greatly appreciate you coming on and doing this for us. For most of us, we may not be able to use it right now for us, but we'll be able to use it with somebody that needs it, that we can bump into about anything, especially the burial stuff is great. Like it's important. The Champ VA is important. Insurance alone is important. And we talk about it all the time. Like, having insurance at a younger age is cheaper than trying to get it when you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s. So hopefully, like, the message resonates and people get to pick it up and learn from it. So again, man, thank you for coming on and doing this and educating us on this journey of being
Of
a veteran.
course. Of course. Yeah, thank you for having me. I definitely do this all the time, but I don't do it always in a group setting. So I understand the questions and stuff like that. But yeah, no, if you guys want to get any of it taken care of, like I said, we handle it for veterans. We do take care of the veterans' families as well, just like USA, right? USA takes care of the veteran, the spouse, and the kids. We take care of the veteran, spouse, kids, parents, and siblings. So that's a big kind of thing as well, whether it's the will, burial benefits. We do take care of the entire family. The kids are a really great example. I do a lot of Head Start programs for the children where you're actually able to qualify them when they're 15 or 18 or 22 years old. And you set it up for them, and they actually get to keep it for the rest of their life instead. So, kind of like Ty always talks about, if it's not for you, not a big deal. Really just kind of wanted to come on here, share the information. I've been having a great time meeting with all the, I would say mostly Chief Petty Officers, retired Navy in Virginia. It's been a pretty great time. Famous is kind of who it started with, but then went to Ty and Susan and so on and so forth. So it's been a good time meeting with everybody. So just really kind of wanting to share the information. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, I know my number's on the post on Facebook, and then I just dropped that in the chat for you guys as well. So if you guys have questions or anything comes up, don't hesitate to shoot me a call or shoot me a text.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I do have my package to send back. I just got to figure out how my beneficiaries. I got to sort them out.
That's good, Famous. Well, at least you're getting it all filled out. That's good. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. You guys have